we'll take you to Australia now, where a quiet and painful moment unfolds in Sydney as the first funerals have been held for victims of the Bondi Beach mass shooting that shocked Australia. The attack, which targeted a Jewish Hanukkah event, claimed 15 lives and left many others injured, drawing widespread condemnation as an act of anti-Semitic violence. Mourners gathered under tight security to honor the lost, including respected community leaders, as families and friends paid their final respects in grief and solidarity. These funerals mark a time of deep national reflection as Australia mourns the victims, supports the bereaved, and confronts broader questions around safety, unity, and healing. Meanwhile, the accused gunman in Sydney's Bondi Beach massacre, 24-year-old Naveed Akram, has been charged with 59 offences, including 15 charges of murder after waking up from coma in a Sydney hospital, where he has been since police shot him and his father at Bondi. His father, Sajid Akram, 50, died at the scene.
I urge Western governments to take the necessary measures to combat anti-Semitism and to provide the necessary security and safety for Jewish communities worldwide. It is wise to heed our warnings. I demand action now.
Nice place. I guess you've mostly been here, but you like it a lot better with Trump than you like it with Biden. That I can tell you. That's because you're smart. Well, I'm thrilled to welcome so many good friends to the White House as we celebrate the...
Well, for more on these stories, I'm joined now online by RAI's special correspondent, James Blue. James, glad to have you join me.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Manhunt, we know, is underway. 2 people killed and 9 others injured in this shooting at Rhode Island on Saturday. Well, according to the Attorney General, he says progress is being made. Can we put this in numbers? What does he mean by progress is being made? How much progress?
Don't know if we can actually put it in numbers, but what we can say is that by releasing the enhanced video, there's a much better image of the actual assailant. So what they did on Monday and Tuesday is that they went house to house in the area around the actual shooting, and they collected the videos that people have on their doorbells. We have a system here in the U.S. Which is called Ring, and what it does is it records constantly the front door. And so what police did is that they went and got this video, and as a result, they were able to kind of recreate or actually create much better images of the actual suspected assailant. This has really helped. He's a stocky figure. He's wearing all black. And I think this has really motivated the police as they continue their search. I mean, one of the big challenges in Providence right now, because the shooter remains at large, many people are keeping their kids at home. I know, as you know, Brown University canceled all exams. And so there is really a sense of the city being in danger simply because there has not been an arrest made for the shooter of the students over the weekend.
Let's talk about that. With the investigation into its 5th day, the police chief says they are in the 49th hour. That's what he calls it, and they can hardly wait to put handcuffs on this individual. But the fear factor, James, keeps heightening, saying the shooter is still on the loose. Speak to that.
Yeah, I think, this is a shooting that affects many, many, many people. And I think because, the gun violence in this country isn't just local, it is national. People are afraid. I'll just give you two examples. I got a text on Saturday that a friend of mine was in Providence, and she had gone up to Providence because one of our friends from home had a daughter who was actually shot. She was shot 12 times. She is in stable condition in the hospital. She was in the freshman study group, and she was, preparing for her exam. Another friend spoke to someone yesterday trying to get some assistance with a project, and the person had to get off the phone because she was so distraught because one of her daughter's friends was one of the victims who was actually killed. And so this is just in my little friend group. This is a very big country, but it gives you a sense of how personal and how deep the gun violence actually is, and sort of how many people it actually impacts. And so that is, a really, really chilling. And I'm not even in Providence. My friend who called the mother whose child was a friend of one of those who was killed was in Virginia. So the fear is real because these attacks keep happening one after the other. They just keep going. And that is just really, really quite scary.
And then, of course, the thinking in people's heads and minds that this shooter, fifth day on the bounce, is still prowling around. Nobody knows whether he's in the vicinity or away from it. But what more can you tell us about Governor Daniel McKee's request for a review of safety and security plans for schools in the wake of the shooting?
Yeah, I think what the governor is really trying to do is to do what they can do. And that is to look, how is it that the shooter was able to get into the building? We are assuming that he is not staff at Brown. He certainly seems too old to be a student at Brown. We don't know that for sure. And so the question is, how did he put himself in a position to actually, shoot and massacre so many students? That really is quite an important question that needs to be answered. I mean, it's possible that procedures could be developed that would make it much harder for people to get into places. But, it really, there's so many guns available, there's so many guns around that is likely to be very difficult.
It's also interesting to note that the guy prowled the area for about 5 hours.
Yeah, he clearly was trying to figure out how to do something, and he was really trying to figure out where to take his. I'm sorry, we're having some computer problems. He was trying to figure out where to take his. Yes, thank you. He was trying to figure out where to take his. Where to take his opportunity. And so the question is, was he really targeting Brown? Was he targeting someplace else? That really is what we don't know. And the fact that he was scoping, what was he scoping? I think these are all sort of questions that need to be answered. Did he know people in the class? Did he know people at the university? Those are the questions that we want to get answered.
Police is hoping that with his having prowled for 5 years, that there'll be somebody, something, somewhere who would have probably noticed something like that, and then they'll probably help their case. Now, let's move on to, if we'll have time, we can still talk about some other things on this Brown shooting. But let's move on to the fact that there's shooting of boats. 8 people killed, boats, from Venezuela. 8 people killed in this particular shooting with no proof of the transporting of drugs. I mean, that's the point and thing to note here. Trump says he wants to keep blowing up boats until Maduro cries uncle. What's that?
I think it is regime change, and I think it is really, really dangerous that we have in President Trump and his administration, the decision has been made that Maduro has to go. And I think that it is really, really challenging. And I think it is really, quite upsetting that these bombs and these ships are being blown up. I think, one of the things that has escalated in the last day, President Trump has ordered the blockade of oil tankers entering Venezuela and leaving Venezuela. And that is going to really create a real crisis in the country. And so, what will be very interesting to see as they lose money, as things sort of um, really get more difficult for Venezuelans living there, what will that do to Maduro? Will he actually cry uncle and leave? We do not know. We also don't know what Maduro and President Trump discussed on the phone. It's possible that this has all been planned out, and at a certain date, President Maduro is going to leave. We do not know. What we do know is that Venezuela is supported by Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. And so these are enemies of the United States. And I think President Trump is going to be very, very aggressive and really work to make sure Venezuelan oil will no longer hit the seas.
Time to talk about Reiner's death, incidentally, but we can talk about the Trump visa, further restricting and limiting the entry of foreign nationals to protect the security of the United States. What informed directly these new additions, including that of Nigeria? And what's your take on, or what do you make of the revised list? Why was Nigeria included in the first place? If you can talk about it, the B1, B2, FMJ visa, and who is allowed to come in, who is not allowed to go out. If you can talk about that briefly.
Yeah, this is really, really concerning, and because it is so. And I have them down here. So the B1, B2 visa are people who travel. Those are businessmen. Those are people who are doing business, people coming to conferences. Those are just sort of general people who need to come into the country. The F visa is a student college visa. The M visa is for people who want to study at a trade school or go to a flight school. And the J visa are for people to do exchanges. So let's say you had students who wanted to come over for a summer program, if you had exchanges between associations. But most damning and most concerning is the fact that the people who are married to Americans, people who are children to Americans, people who are parents to Americans, who were all planning to come and immigrate to this country based on the fact that they have a relative here, all of those visas have also been suspended. Now, the reason that's been given for the Nigerian suspension is very particular. It's because and I'm going to quote, radical Islamic terrorist groups such as Boko Haram and the Islamic State operate freely in certain parts of Nigeria, which creates substantial screening and vetting difficulties. Now, we have both, you live in Nigeria, I visited Nigeria. We certainly have understood that ISIS and Boko Haram are active in parts of Nigeria, but I find it very difficult for someone in Port Harcourt or someone in Lagos or someone in any number of places around the country would have trouble applying for a visa and would have trouble having their background vetted because, as you know, many of the areas where the terror issues are isolated. And so this seems to be a very heavy hand to try to solve a problem that does exist, is an issue. But the question is, does it really make everyone in the country unable to immigrate? The other really big burden, people who have had their immigration approved, people who have their stamps in their passport, people who were here already on a green card and possibly want to become citizens, all of that has been placed on pause. And I just think it's very, very damaging.
Draconian, you'd add. Thank you so much, James Blue, for your interesting discussion on these topics. Thank you.